Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and I have a tutorial for you today. We have had a few requests for this little folio I had made a little while ago, and it was in a 3-piece set that we had sold in our Etsy shop. So had some requests for it, and what it is, you may have heard it referred to as a one-sheet wonder. It's a small fold-out folio, and I'll unfold it for you in just one second here. It measures 3 by 3, has a little 1/4-inch spine. This is a design team. The papers I used are from nevermorecreations17.com, Lindsay Zenor, and I will leave her information down below. She has a kit I used entitled Postage Due, and it is a wonderful little kit. I don't have all the sheets here, but here's, I think there are 8 pages. These are some of the more busy ones. Several of them are more neutral, but there are 3 pages, yes, and then it comes with 2 envelopes. How cute are these? Just so cute. It's just a fantastic kit. Be sure to check that out. And then it also comes with 3 pages of ephemera cards, postcards. So as the name implies, it has to do with the postal system, the post office, mailing letters, writing letters. So as you see here, there are writing utensils on here, lots of stamps and cancellation stamps. So I mean, it is a wonderful kit. But let's open this up and I'll show you what it is. I may have to zoom out just a tiny bit for now. Let me see if I can get my button here. There we go. All right, we'll try that. So here, this closure is just a string and eyelet closure. I will open this up so you can see what it is and kind of go this way. So here's the top flap here. This folds down and folds down like this. This one folds out to the side and over to the side on that one. So it is fold out folio. So you can use it for photos, journaling and photos. Journaling, it has 2 pockets here with tags. And it is, this idea has been around for a long time, but it's kind of fun to revisit stuff now and then. So it just folds up like that, and the string wraps around. And we'll talk about different closures at the end. So this one it just completely wraps around, and then the beads keep the string from going underneath. And I just have an image on. Oh, I forgot to show you the back. So the back's all decorated too. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let's get this undone again. Okay. Boom, boom. Okay, so there's the inside and here's the outside. So it's all decorated. And if you have a pattern that's real busy, you can use that for a photo, or you could put a little piece of tea stain paper over it and just jot some notes. It is a fun project, perfect for stocking stuffer or sticking in your purse. I just love this little thing. So cute. So the things you will need today, a scoring board is extremely helpful. You can also use your favorite scoring method. Scoreboard, very useful. 1 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it should be cardstock, and a fairly thick cardstock. This one is pretty thick. I just have it in my loose papers, so I have no idea the weight of this, but it wound up to be perfect. I think it may be like 140 pound, 110 pound I believe would work as well, or anything in between, however they sell it. I'm not sure when it gets up to there, those numbers, I'm not sure how it goes. Let's see what else. Scissors will be handy. A little hole rounder, a circle punch is not needed because you can freehand a half circle. If you want to ink your edges, you're going to need ink. So, and then your string and brad or eyelet, depending on what you're using for a closure. I think that's about it, besides glue, I guess, and your patterned paper that you want to put on it. Okay, so let's start. I have a dark piece of paper. I think you'll be able to see the score lines, but I am not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and use a blunt pink pencil, so that way I can score it since it's blunt, and also it'll draw a line so you guys can see it a little better. So the way to start is to put this 8.5 inch edge up at the top of your scoreboard. Make sure it's butted up against the corner really well right here. Alright, and then we've got just on this edge we only have 2 score marks, so we're going to go oh, my pencil just broke. It did seriously just break. Let me see if I can find my other one. Alright, hopefully this will work. Also wanted to mention something else, but I don't remember what it was. I'll think of it in a minute. So, oh, I know. So the increments that I am scoring, I'll list those down below in the description box, so you'll have that in written form. Maybe I'll get this put up on my blog too. Our blog, sorry. Let's see. 2 7/8 is the first one, and then scoot over to 5 3/4 and all the way down. So I'm not saying to use a colored pencil, I'm just doing it so that you guys can see what I'm doing. Use your scoring tool for that. Alright, then go ahead and flip it to the 11 inch side, and we've got several markings here. So 2 7/8 once again. 3 inches, so that's just a tiny bit away from that. And then over here to 5 7/8, and then we're going to do 6 1/8. This 1/4 inch section is the spine. One of the spines, there are 2, and then this one is the flap part where it's just a tiny bit. Or no, it's not the flap part. It's the underneath part. And 6 1/8. Okay, and then scoot over to 9. And then 9 1/4 to make our other spine. Alright, I'm trying to see if I have it scored well enough. Yep, the pencil worked okay. Alright, so I think that is it for the scoreboard, so let's set that aside. And the first thing to do, we are going to cut all 4 corners off. And so when there's a single line, we're just going to cut up here. And then we're going to go up to, when there's a double line, we're going to go up to the, not the first one, but the second one, and cut it there. And every time we have that, it'll be cut on the single line up to the second, and then cut the second line in there. So that is the way we will cut this. Okay, second line from your right. Okay. And then single line, just cut. And just turn it, single line, cut up to the second line. I guess that's second line going up on this, in this case. Okay. And now we've got the second line from the right again, because it's facing this way. Second line. Those lines look so close together because of that giant pencil I used. And then this single line just cuts straight up. Okay, one more time. Single line, just cut. We're cutting off all 4 corners up to the second line we get to up there. And cut. There you go. Okay, so the piece should look like this when you get done with that part of it. Alright, then more cutting. Now the double lines that are in the center on this part and this part, we're going to cut those out. So the way to do it is just cut along these double lines just up to the first score mark. So cut these double lines just up to the first score mark. Alright, I'm going to use my little scissors for this part. You can use a craft knife or whatever you are comfortable with. Just cut that little section we we just cut that little 1/4 inch section, just cut that completely off, like that. So now we have this gap right here. Flip it around and do the exact same thing. Just give it a long cut just up to the score mark, a long cut just up to the score mark. All right, take your little scissors or something handy, which may be the big scissors you just had, maybe, and just cut that. So now we have this shape, which is a gap here, and the 4 corners are off. Okay, so now we're going to start folding. We're going to fold all these folds up. Okay, so fold this up. And I do think it is handy to have a bone folder to press those in. I'm trying to find mine. There it is. It came out of its container. So we'll just give that a little burnish. Okay, and then this one is a little tricky because it's only an eighth of an inch away from the other one. All right. So now we have a tiny little gusset there, or spine. All right, I'm just going to keep going straight up. These flaps just fold up. Okay, here's another one that's only a 1/4 inch. These 2 score lines are only 1/4 inch apart from each other, but it's not too hard. Not too bad. So we folded that, and now 1/4 inch up from that is our other score line. I'm just trying to make sure my edges are all lined up before I burnish it down. Okay, and then this flap. This flap, you're folding them all upwards. This will be handier to do it this way, so I'm just going to flip it over. So burnish that and do the next 1/4 inch score mark and burnish that. So done and done. All right, so this is how this will work. You guys can see it, right? So this will fold up after, well, one of these will be a pocket. One of these will be a pocket, and then this flap goes over, up, and flap. Boom, done. All right, so this is the majority of the work. Okay, now is the fun part. These pockets and flaps can go either way, it does not matter. So I'll just take this one and make it into the pocket. You could take this one and make it into the pocket. It just depends on how you're going to fold over. But that's fine as long as you do this one the opposite way. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ruler and mark 1 1/2 inches up on this flap, and I am going to draw a line and cut it off, and that'll become our pocket. Draw a line, cut it off. Alright, so then, since you did that to this one, this opposite one over here is going to have the same thing. I'm going to do 1 1/2 inches up from the score mark. 1 1/2 inches up from the score mark. And it doesn't have to be exact. It does not have to be exact, but I found that to be a pretty good size. So draw a line and cut. Alright? And as I said, you could do it the other way if you'd like to. So these will become pockets. Can you see how that works? Those will become pockets. Alright, so the first thing though, before we make them into pockets, is to go ahead and put our papers down. Our mats. The mats are 2 3/4 inches square. And what I mean by mat is that we're just decorating these squares. We're decorating all these surfaces, front and back. So when I say mat, that's what I'm talking about. It's just the decorative paper. So you will need 10 2 3/4 inch square pieces. And so I've already cut a bunch of those. Well, not a bunch, 10, which is a bunch, I guess. So I've already cut 10, and they're 2 3/4 inches square, as I had mentioned, and then I also inked my edges. If you don't like that look, do not worry about it. And don't do it. And just think of all the possibilities. You could make this any style you'd like. You could make this for a teenager. You could just make it some funky papers, any sort of color. I'm sort of making mine vintagey looking and using this beautiful kit. All right, so 2 things you want to keep in mind. Not to put our paper up here yet, because we want to decide on our closure. And the other thing to be aware of is when you fold this up, this is going to be your front. So this is actually the center square in the back. So it's the center square, not counting the flap at all, but the 3 squares, it's the center one. So that you're going to want to keep that in mind, so that when you fold it up, you'll have whatever design you might be going for in the front. And this, we have to wait for closure decision, and this is also going to show, this is your flap, your top flap, so that'll also show. So you want to make sure that your front, which was this one, matches this one, and they look good together. So those are the only 2 things to keep in mind. Otherwise, go for it. All right, so I'm going to use some glue and get started. So I think what I'll first decide is, so I don't grab the wrong one, I'm going to decide what I want my front to look like. And I think I had already picked something. I don't remember. Okay, here it is. I'm pretty sure. I think I was going to use this for the front and this for the flap. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do those. And I think I can zoom in a little bit. All right, so those are the ones I decided to use for my fronts. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those on. And I don't think I'm going to make you watch me do all of this gluing, but I wanted to just show you that the top flap, front flap, and this should maybe just do those first, and that way you don't have to remember that you had a certain one you wanted, or you're left over with, oh man, I used it for something else. So we're just going to go ahead and do that front. Just kind of center it. I'm trying to pull it down a little bit. There we go. There, so now it'll look like that when it's folded up. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and put all my squares on. And here and here. I think I'll wait to do the flaps with you, but I will be back in just a flash. Alright, I'm back. I put all my squares on. The other in the back as well. So this was our front, remember? So what I did was, if I had, well, that's not true because I glued this one like this. This flap is coming over, so I made it facing this way. So, but if you have neutral ones, it doesn't matter. Like these, it doesn't matter if they're upside down, because they can go either way. I was going to say this one and this one were the same, facing the same way, but they're certainly not. They're certainly not, but that's okay because it works out just fine, because when you're looking at it on the inside, it's facing the correct way, like that. Okay. All right, anyway. That's so, if you do have directional paper, you do have to sort of think about it ahead of time. All right, so these are pockets. So they will be glued down like this, and you will need 2 pieces of paper, 2 3/4 inches by 1 1/2. So these are the ones I chose. This is from the ephemera page, and this is just one from one of the journal pages. So I'm going to decide which one. I think I'll put this one here and this one here. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to glue those on, and then I'll show you how we're going to get those pockets finalized. Sorry. Get back in frame. Alright, so here, this one goes here. And this one goes up here. I noticed I made this one a little smaller for some reason, but it's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. It looks perfectly fine. Oh, it's not that bad. When I held it up before, I thought, wow, that's small. It is a little bit smaller, I believe, but okay, so those are the pockets. Before we glue the pockets down to make pockets, we are going to put a thumb grab on them. So take your circle punch or just a pair of scissors and just freehand a little half circle here, just so it's easier to grab the tag, because this is a pretty small size. We want to make sure it's easy to grab the tag or the photo or whatever it is that you're going to be putting inside. And since this is still wet, it's not going to punch all the way through, so we'll just need a little help from our scissors. And then we'll re-ink that little section that we cut here. Excuse me. Yep. It is not going to cut. It's a little too wet. Alright. Not going to cut it all. Hardly. This one hardly went. So just cut. Oh, I think I know why. Not just because it's wet. That's part of it, I'm sure. But this is cardstock. All these layers of mats are just paper, which is probably good. You don't want to bulk it up too much. But this particular one is a cardstock because it was from the ephemera sheet, and I printed it out on cardstock. Okay. So just give that a little inking on those thumb grabs. Little inking. Those are kind of hard to get sometimes. Okay, now we're going to make it into a pocket. So just run, oh my glue is getting really globby. Just make a bead of glue along the sides of those pockets. And I have a little too much, so I was just going to take some of that off with my finger. Okay, and then just hold it for a second. Alright, and then we're going to do the same thing on this pocket. Just run a little bead of glue. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting off frame. It's because I'm zoomed in so much. Let me zoom out just a tad. So sorry about that. Alright, get that glued down. Just remove some of that glue so it doesn't squish out the sides. Okay, this one stayed pretty well. That's good. Sometimes they pop back up on me when I'm starting something else, starting the next step. And I did get some glue on here, so let me rub that off. You're probably all screaming, no! Get the glue! The thing about Fabri-Tac is that if you catch it soon enough, it rubs off, similar to if you've ever worked with, oh, what is that called? Rubber cement. If you've ever worked with rubber cement, you'll know that that's pretty easy to rub off. And so it's very similar, but if it dries, you're kind of stuck. Alright, so just to summarize, so here is what we have. We have our pocket. That flap goes over. We have this pocket, that flap goes over, and then you fold from the bottom. And then the top flap. Alright, so we're almost done, as you can see. I thought I would go over tags. I didn't have any tags the right size, so all I did was I cut squares of cardstock, or not squares, I cut rectangles of cardstock 2 inches by 2.5 inches tall. And so I just thought I'd show you what I do when I don't have a tag, and I'll either make it out of craft cardstock if I'm having a plain tag, or if I'm going to decorate it. If I'm going to decorate it, I'll just put glue all over the rectangle and put my decorative paper on. And do the same thing with this one. Make sure to get the edges pretty well. So I'm kind of getting in the shadows too, aren't I? Okay, so there you have a decorated rectangle. So you're going to want to trim off the edges. Oh, this one was pretty good. And this one, just trim off the edges of the paper that's hanging over the edge. Okay, there you have two decorated rectangles. The next thing I do is cut off the corners to make the tag shape, the familiar tag shape that we have. If you have some kind of a punch or something, that would be awesome. So I wasn't explaining it. So I cut off a corner, then I flip the corner over and hold it up to the other opposite side, and then I clip off the exact same amount. So I'm just going to go ahead and, well, actually I'll just use one of these for this too. So I'm holding up the corner that I cut off of this one so that these look the same, and I'm cutting it off. Alright, and then you're going to take that same corner that you cut off, bring it back over to your project, flip it over. As you can see, I have the back side facing up, and then follow that line and just clip it off. And there you've got two tags. And then you can just punch a hole in the center and put a little twine on there, and you've got two little tags. So let's see, which one should I put where? And you can put twine on the top. You can put a little eyelet there if you'd like. Whatever. I did put twine on my other one, but you can't have a lot because it comes up pretty far. And I wanted to have more of a generous tag. So, all right. Now the closure. So let's talk about the closure. Okay, so this one here, this is not my favorite. I've made this little project a number of times, and usually use a brad and string. You can use a button and string. By that I just mean like a couple layers of cardstock in a tiny circle, and then you put an eyelet down through the middle. I don't think I have any samples of anything with that, so I can't show you. And I don't have a small circle punch like that. That's why I don't usually do that style, because I need to get a circle punch for that, but I don't have one. So what I did with this one is the eyelet, tied the string to the eyelet and wrapped it around 4 times, and then I put beads on the end. I put a knot at the top of the beads and a knot, 2 knots at the bottom of the beads. I did it this way. If you do it this way or with the button and string closure, you need about, I believe it was 28 inches to wrap it 4 times. But that's up to you. The reason why this is not my favorite method is because if you look here, this section just has this little half string, let's see, half width string like that. And so sometimes I grab it and go under there, and it gets stuck a little bit. So this isn't a problem if you just grab your strings up there and take it in and out under there. But sometimes if I try to do this, it gets stuck, or sometimes the string gets stuck in between the beads. I still like this. It's just you have to have, just be just a tiny bit careful not to do that. But I mean, a habit will just get you like pulling up the strings up here. Okay, so that's that one. I really do like that one. I like the look of it. But we're going to go ahead and put a brad in here. You know what I thought would be really nice is to round these edges as well. So I'm going to round these flap I maybe should have done that before I decorated it, but that's okay. I'm going to round the edges, put a little ink on there, and then we've got a nice rounded flap. I like that. All right, so what we're going to do is just put a brad in and then do our string closure. So I'm going to eyeball this. And the brad I use it's a fairly large sized one. I don't know if it's maybe 1/4 of an inch or 5/16, something like that. It's about 1/4 of an inch. So it's maybe a little bigger than you might use, for example, if you're decorating a card or something like that. So I punched my hole. I have a small hole punch, and I just put the prongs of the brad through the hole. And what I like to do is lift it up a tiny bit, and I usually use whatever's handy. So like this ruler. I need to make myself a template is what I need to do. Let's just use this ruler here. Hold it up a little bit and then take your prongs and separate them. You don't want the brad head too close to the surface because then your string won't go underneath it. So if you can see that, the brad is sticking up a little ways from the flap. And that's what we want. Okay. All right. Now's the time to decorate the inside of your flap. So I chose, yes, I do have something. I chose this, and so I rounded the edges of that flap, so I need to round the edges of this at the top, not the bottom, at the top, which also means I need to ink that. All right, and then attach this onto your flap to cover up those brads, the brad prongs, I mean, and then you are good to go. Whoops. All right, so we are going to glue this on. This is cardstock as well because this was from a piece of ephemera, and actually I think I didn't make my other ones that way, but I really think I like this cardstock here. So if it's possible, if you could put cardstock on the inside of the flap, I think that's a great idea, but it works just fine if you don't do that. All right, so the next thing is to tie string. This makes it super easy because you're just going to tie the string around your brad. So I'm going to get a loop going first before I take that over there. Tie your knot and pull it tightly and clip it off a bit, and that's it. That's it. So then go down, up and over, up and over, to up and over, and then when you get to the end, just wrap this around your brad again, and there's your closure. And I did cut that a little long. You still could put beads on the end or a charm. I think that would be cute. So that's it, my friends. Let's undo this and look at it. All right, so lots of surfaces to use for whatever you would like. All right, and there's our first pocket, and it has a tag. Open this up. There's a surface here. Open this up, surface here, but there's also a pocket here. Did I say pocket? That's a pocket. That's a pocket. I don't know what I said. Sometimes you wonder. Okay, and then they flip shut like this, and the flap goes down. But you can also turn this whole thing over, and you've got more surfaces. All right. Super cute, super fun, and easy project. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give me a thumbs up, and if you like this tutorial, please subscribe to our channel. I have a couple more tutorials coming right up, kind of back to back with this one, and lots of content on our channel. So we hope you do subscribe, and thank you so much for joining me today. Goodbye, everybody.